Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Invin and today I'm going to be bringing you guys a video on Into the Void, which is New World 1.1. Now a lot of you guys will have seen that this update has been announced, and what I'm going to basically do in this video is summarize it in as quick as possible form for you guys so that you've got a general idea of what's going on without sitting here watching 50 minutes of a patch notes video, because a lot of this stuff is stuff you don't necessarily need to know, and if you want to know I will leave it linked down below in the description if you want to read over every nuance of changes. But I'm generally gonna go over everything that has been changed with this massive update so that you guys can be ahead of the curve, stay on top of everything, all that good stuff. Now, before we jump directly into it, I just want to show you something that they added afterwards to the patch notes section as well. So jumping in here to the actual post that Luxandra put on 16 hours ago, saying that the monthly update will be available, and, you know, it's currently going on for me now on approximately 4 hours downtime. Obviously, they linked the New World Into the Void news, which is, of course, 1.1's update. And then if we just scroll down here, it says, update, our team included these additional fixes into the Void update. So, for those of you that kind of have looked at the update already or haven't seen this part, they've also included, we corrected an issue where the chests in Lazarus Instrumentality and Garden of Genesis were not properly contributing to the player high watermark, which is good, means you can increase your gear score there, good. Fix bugs that were preventing a gear score of 600 Arcana weapons from being crafted. Finally, for you Arcana crafters, you've had your fix. T5 weaponsmithing pants now drop from the named enemy Entropy, which enables players to complete their full set of weaponsmithing perk apparel. Thank you. I personally am almost at 200 weaponsmithing and have not found a single pair of pants, and I honestly just thought people were keeping them, or they were very rare. I didn't realise they weren't actually even in the game, so that's really good personally for me, and I'm sure for a lot of you crafters out there as well. And then, of course, they've increased the coin gained from expedition bosses starting at Starstone by 25% and ramping up to endgame expeditions by 100%. So you're going to get a lot more gold from those endgame expeditions, and of course all expeditions through the game, which is a really nice way to add a bit of incentive to that PvP environment. So jumping back into the main update then, of course, you guys can see at the top here we have the Void Gauntlet. Again, I've done a video on this one which I will leave linked on screen for you guys now if you do want to check out what's going on with the Void Gauntlet, what I think of it, what the abilities are, all that kind of good stuff, so you guys can check that out, which means I'm not going to cover over it too much in this update, and I also covered it in yesterday's video saying how you can make it, the recipes and such, so I'm not going to go into too much depth here, but basically it's coming into the game and it's going to be very cool, particularly in wars and PvP, but also in PvE for getting those bosses down a lot quicker. Any of those difficult areas are going to be a lot better with the Void Gauntlet, and this very cool image kind of shows that off right here. There's a few to kind of scroll through, and I think these are really cool, so you're certainly going to want to get your hands on this as soon as you can in-game, test it out if you haven't done so already, and certainly get this on your healers when you can. Now we've also got the new enemies, which is the Varangian or Varangian, whatever, Knights. They're going to be basically for lower level people, but they're going to be around the world, and going down later into the patch notes here, they have added some specific knight looking armor sets and weapons for this to fit in with the theme, which I think is very cool. So we'll get onto that once we get down to those patch notes as well. Now, looking at the world, basically you've seen some visual improvements. You've seen run faster on roads. This is a big one. You'll get a movement speed of 10% while traveling on roads. Yes, this is something that I'm very happy about. It makes sense because everybody's running on the roads pretty much, and if you're not going to be running on the roads, then obviously you're gathering, so this makes a lot more sense. I think that's a good change. Very happy to see it. The move speed bonus will not trigger unless the player has been running for 3 seconds and they are on a road, and the movement bonus will be cancelled if a player engages in combat in any way, such as dodging, blocking, attacking, or being hit with a debuff. The move speed buff is not active while player is actively engaged in wars, outpost rush, or duels. They've also, this is a huge one, added a plus 10% luck bonus and plus 30% gathering luck bonus to flagged PvP players. So whenever you flag for PvP, you're going to get a by default global plus 10% luck bonus and plus 30% gathering luck bonus, which is absolutely pivotal. And for those of you that saw yesterday's video when I talked about the PvP quest, particularly where you have to go and kill 5 players, that is going to be the reason that this is going to be a lot better now. Most people, particularly at level 60, will be going around flagged no matter what they're doing, because it's going to be hugely beneficial. So making sure you are flagged and being able to do those quests in hindsight then from PvP quests, it's going to be pretty much doable. So that's really good. They've also added a few more fixes and such down here. Then we've got new quests, new missions added. The PvP missions are the ones that I was speaking about specifically. So obviously we've got Control Point, which is seize control of a fort, which will be in the area that you're either attacking or defending. Really important, makes the forts a lot more useful, so that's brilliant. We've also got Intercept, which is defeat enemy faction members and collect their tiers. This is really, really good. This is the one where you have to kill enemy players, and again, because of the bonus luck gathering and bonus loot luck in general, it's going to be a lot more active that you're going to see people PvP flagged. And of course, you've got War Camp loot here, which is retrieve hidden plans at the enemy's war camp. Again, making these landmarks on the map actually worthwhile having there generally, and I think it brings a lot more emphasis on actually engaging with the world. I really like that. Really, really cool. They've then done some other quest changes along the way here, and some notable changes obviously to kind of the main story. Done some notable world tech changes as well, and then consumables. Say for combat and AI is a huge section. Again, on screen for you guys now will be a video linked where I've went over every single weapon change that's going to be in this patch. So I've done that already. A couple of days ago I did that video for you guys, kind of making sure that you were kind of ahead of the game, leveling up those weapons and such. So this time I'm not going to go in depth on what that actually means and what that actually is. But what I am going to do is just briefly go over, obviously, consumables. They've got rid of the well-fed buff stacking, and they've also fixed the buff that prevented weapon coatings from being consumed when not properly used. Good. Gear perks, I went over. Equipment load, I went over. Navigation updates, been over. Duels, been over. Attribute, been over. Wars, one thing to really note here. Structures are now immune to buffs and debuffs that shouldn't affect them. Good. Disabled player collision on Inferno traps due to getting stuck on them, which is good, and also made it so that players cannot damage other players with weapon abilities through forts and war camp gates, which is really good. And then Outpost Rush have reduced the power of Battle Bread from plus 15 to plus 5 attack and defense. They've also reduced the damage reduction on the Baroness buff from 25% to 15, and they've reduced the damage and defense on the Commander tent from 5 to 7 to 15 to 3, 6, and 9. So be aware of that if you're playing Outpost Rush. Weapons, like I said there, we've gone over, but essentially the Warhammer's had a big buff. Lifestaff has had some changes, but overall seems to be quite a good changes, I would assume. Hatchet has had some good changes and some fixes from where it was broken. Great Axe is still going to be doing a lot of damage. You're going to have a big reach. It's going to be fantastic, and they've added Grit to Whirlwind, so for those of you that played with that one, very good. Bow, you've had a little bit of a buff. Sword, you've had a little bit of a buff. Firestaff, you've had a very big change, so it's gone from being passive-based to ability-based, which is massive. So if you are a Firestaff user, I do recommend reading through these changes. Spear has been buffed again, and it's going to make it a very good, absolutely outstanding 1v1 weapon. Can now be used in small-scale PvP, but I do still think it's going to struggle in that large scale. Ice Gauntlet's seen a fairly big nerf, and it was quite OP, particularly the exploit kind of bug type thing that was going around at the moment, where Ice Storm was reducing basically every single resistance by 80% or something stupid. That's gone, and it seemed quite a big change, I would say, but it is kind of a nerf unless you're going to switch out your abilities to some of those less used ones before, which is kind of what the emphasis is on. Also, Rapier, very good. You're potentially going to see a Rapier meta now. The cooldowns are going to be near on instant. Every time you've used all three, you're going to have the first one back up, and you're going to be able to cycle these. Really good. Musket's seen quite a large buff as well, particularly in terms of damage, so this is going to be really good, particularly in PvP. In terms of AI, they've updated kind of a lot of the mobs, a lot of the kind of dungeons, expedition type stuff. They've changed a lot of the tuning from the AI as well to make it work better, corruption breaches, etc. Each individual mob has had changes, and of course they've done expedition changes all throughout those, so any of them that you do want to kind of read over and check up on, like I said, it will be linked in the description below. And they've also made changes to a couple of the arena bosses here, but this is going to be something that's really crucially important, and that is economy progression and loot. So this is something that I'm going to go over. I've not gone over it too much, so I'm going to read through some of the most important ones here for you guys. First of all, you've got faction change. Cooldown has been reduced to 60 days from 120, so halved. We can change this a lot more often now, every 2 months, so be aware there could be some big shifts on the servers coming soon. And of course, you guys as well, if you want to yourselves, can change factions a lot more often. The repair kit weight has been reduced from 2 to 0.1, which makes more sense. I don't know why it was ever 2. Essentially, if you've got max repair parts, it's certainly worth making couple hundred of these, maxing out down to maybe a couple hundred repair parts left. You can use the repair kits instead. Now they're actually viable to hold. And of course, on top of that, it means that you can continuously keep making the most of that salvage. They've also added the item chunk of concentrated iron to the top rank of the faction shop. And this consecrated iron I used to craft all the resilient perks for armor items, which I think is a really nice addition. Resilient is really, really good. And so that being in the shop is really cool. Now, a massive, massive thing. All trading posts have been linked. So anybody that was not wanting this, anybody that was wanting this, regardless now, this has been done. All trading posts throughout the entire game have been linked. So bear in mind, it says here, both the listing tax and the purchase tax will be paid to the territory where the buy or sell order was listed. Items listed in sell orders that expire are returned to the settlement from which they were posted in. It is no longer possible for you to place items on the trading post for 28 days. The maximum is now 14. Additionally to this, which is not to do with the trading post, but they have reduced durability loss from PvP deaths by 10%, reduced the quantity of honey gained from apiaries by 50%, and the amount of milk from cows by 65%. Honey trees are unaffected by this change, and we've made the change because of the volume of milk and honey in the world is higher than our initial estimates. The bees and cows are happy about this change. Okay, so any of you guys that are in the food industry, watch your back on that one. Housing taxes are now due every 7 days instead of every 5, so it actually is a weekly tax now, which makes a lot more sense. No changes to the cost, so the player will gain 2 extra days of housing time without an increase to their taxes. Really, really good, although if you do own a settlement, maybe not so good for you because you were making money off it, but of course, for generally everybody in the game, that is a good change, so that's how it should have been from day one, in my opinion. I like that change. In terms of progression, they've reduced the territory standing gains from cooking as they're a little bit too generous. Updated some Harpless Homestead Town project, now require 1 mission item instead of 5, and increased the XP requirement for progressing crafting trade skills. This is a big one. Once the player unlocks a new tier of recipes, e.g. going from iron to steel, the XP requirements to continue progressing by just crafting things at the previous tier will be significantly diminished. Meaning, for those of you that were watching the guides, the really well-made guides, I might add, that were kind of around on YouTube and on forums and things about crafting those low-level ones to get the most XP for the cheapest amount, that's no longer going to be the case. You're going to want to move up to the highest tier that you can possibly craft, and you are going to see more XP for those ones and less for the lower ones, which does make sense. It does say here as well, however, it should still take the same amount of effort to progress the crafting skill if you can craft the items in the highest tier of which you are capable of crafting. So it makes sense, actually, as you level up the crafting skill, you're supposed to craft the higher level ones, and that now rewards you with the most XP. Kind of a good change in my opinion. A lot of people will say it's more expensive, but I think in the long run it's going to cost basically the same amount. It's going to even out. It just means you've got to refine stuff, which of course does cost the refining reagents, so we'll see there, but generally a good change. Trading skills, potion crafting update. This is a big one. They've added something here called Alakest, and this one is basically now going to be crafted by distilling the magical herbs found throughout Eternum, and serves as a reliable and potent base for potions going forward, particularly for health and mana potions. So that's really good. We're not going to have to find all of those crazy ingredients now. We can actually just craft this Alakest and actually make a lot more health and mana potions. Really, really cool. Rare resources, so this one is really important as well. Basically, thanks to the reports from the forums, we found a probability issue with rare resources from tier 3, 4 and 2 gathering nodes and resolved it. Thanks to everybody that continued to make New World better with the reports. Basically, the short version here is that the probabilities that we were multiplying each other resulted in a near zero chance of some already rare items dropping. That combined with an issue that could make it next to impossible for that item to drop if your luck values were too high. Not exactly how luck should work, of course. Which translated into a luck sweep spot that had you basically with even a chance that is next to zero of getting that drop. So essentially with this fix, things like Fey Iron, Void Metal, Phase Fiber and Petrified Wood should now have an appropriate chance to drop after you reach the trade skill level, and this chance can be increased with eating the appropriate trade skill when gathering with that appropriate food there, and trade skill foods also enable the possibility to get these drops before you would ordinarily be able to do them based upon your trade skill level alone, even though that will be of course a very rare chance. So that's something really important. We're now going to see a lot more of those rare drops coming in, so if you did have any that you were holding on to sell, do it now before the market gets way too saturated with that. But of course, if you were struggling to find those for your crafting recipes, particularly for those legendary weapons and armors, you're now going to be able to see these a lot more often, which is a very nice change. loot some rewards here then. So we've added several new named items as special drops from the knights found around the world. Knights that are quest targets don't have these drops. Added a new style of weapon from the knight type enemy. Rook's Defense Tower Shield is now an appearance one, and added a set of weapons designated by the participants of the Battle for New World event. These weapons are at tier 5 and are capable of being legendary if they roll a gear score of 600. So this is really, really cool. This fits in with the Knights theme, and you will see those weapons in and around Eternum as well. You've got a ton of notable bug fixes here. Very, very large amount of stuff. Again, UX, UI, and social stuff. Streamer mode's been updated so you can put Do Not Disturb on. Salvage and repair we sort of saw about before. And a ton of other notable bug fixes there. Essentially, a lot to read through, but that is all I'm going to cover because that's kind of like the main punchline points from this update. Huge stuff coming to Eternum, so hopefully you guys will obviously enjoy this content. I know I certainly am excited about a lot of the stuff we've seen here, and it'll be interested to see where we go as well. Obviously, the main thing for me, I think, is going to be the 10% running bonus on roads. That's going to make such a difference. So I'm very, very glad that's been added. And of course, the luck bonus to both gathering and general loot luck when you're flagged makes a massive, massive difference. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Quick summary of kind of the main punchline points, the most important stuff that you need to know from this update. If you have, be sure to make sure you leave a like on today's video, as it really does help support me and my content here on YouTube. If you are new to the channel and you want to see more New World content, whether it be updates, announcements, and news like this, or you want to see builds, you want to see tips and tricks, secrets, kind of suggestions to stay ahead of the curve and on top of your game, then make sure you are subscribing down below with the notification bell on, as I really do appreciate that, and I would love to have you here as part of my channel community. Other than that, guys, if you'd like to support me directly as a content creator, the join button is available for the membership program below today's video. And other than that, thank you as always for watching. Thank you for your time, take care, and peace.